Most men believe they are calm because nothing has tested them yet. They mistake comfort for strength and silence for peace. But there is a kind of stillness that is not fragile, not borrowed from circumstances, and not shaken by insult, loss, or threat. It is the stillness of someone who has already surrendered to difficulty. This is the stillness of the man who cannot be disturbed. Long before modern psychology named emotional control or resilience, Japanese warriors built their lives around a state of mind called fudoshin, the immovable mind. It was not indifference, it was not numbness. It was clarity under pressure, presence inside chaos, and dignity while standing on the edge of death. Among those who embodied it most completely was Miyamoto Musashi, a swordsman who lived without comfort, without attachment, and without fear of being misunderstood. This is not a story about becoming louder, faster, or more impressive. It is about becoming untouchable in a quieter way. It is about a modern man who learned that strength is not expressed through reaction, but through restraint. And it is about how ancient discipline still reshapes the human mind, even in an age that has forgotten how to endure. Chapter 1. The Noise. Inside, Kenji lived in a city that never stopped speaking, not with voices alone, but with demands, notifications, deadlines, comparisons, and the subtle pressure to be seen and validated. Each day he moved through crowds with a tight jaw and shallow breath, rehearsing arguments that had already passed and worrying about futures that had not arrived. On the surface, he appeared controlled, competent, even polite. Inside, he was constantly bracing for impact. He noticed it first in small moments. A careless remark from a colleague would replay in his head for hours. A delayed message would tighten his chest. A stranger's expression could darken his mood for an entire evening. He told himself this was sensitivity, or intelligence, or awareness. In truth, it was dependence on things he did not command. At night, when the city softened into distant hum, his mind grew louder. He lay awake cataloging mistakes, imagining confrontations, defending himself against invisible judges. His body rested, but his attention remained at war. He had mastered many skills, but not the one that mattered most: the ability to remain intact when the world pressed against him. He did not call this suffering. He called it normal. Most people do. Chapter 2. The Old Words. Kenji found the book by accident in a used shop squeezed between concrete towers. Its pages were yellowed, its cover plain, its title simple: Dokodo, The Way of Walking Alone. It was written by Miyamoto Musashi in the final days of his life, a list of principles for those who wish to live without being ruled by fear, pleasure, or opinion. He began reading on the train ride home. The language was spare, almost cold. Do not depend on feelings. Do not seek comfort. Do not cling to possessions. Do not act from habit. Do not fear death. These were not suggestions. They were boundaries drawn around the mind. That night, instead of reaching for distraction, he searched for Musashi. He learned of a man who fought over 60 duels without defeat, yet chose to live in caves, to own little, to speak less, and to die without ceremony. A man who believed that mastery of the sword was secondary to mastery of the self. One phrase returned again and again in the texts he found: Fudoshin, a mind unmoved by wind, insult, danger, or desire, not rigid, not suppressed, simply anchored. Kenji realized something quietly uncomfortable. His problem was not the world's noise. It was that he had built no structure inside himself strong enough to resist it. Chapter 3. The First Discipline. The change did not begin with dramatic gestures. It began with refusal. He refused to answer immediately when irritation arose. He refused to rehearse arguments in his head. He refused to explain himself to people who were not listening. This restraint felt unnatural, even dangerous. Silence exposed him. Stillness made him visible to himself. He became aware of how often he used reaction to feel alive, how easily emotion justified movement, speech, and distraction. Musashi wrote that a warrior should observe more than he acts. Kenji practiced this with uncomfortable precision. In meetings, he spoke only when necessary. When criticized, he allowed the words to fall, untouched, like rain striking stone. When praised, he received it without internal celebration. At home, he simplified. Fewer possessions, fewer digital habits, fewer opinions offered into empty air. He discovered that much of his exhaustion came not from effort, but from friction, the constant grinding of desire against reality. The world did not become kinder, but it began to feel lighter. Chapter 4. The Test. True discipline is never proven in solitude. It is tested by other people. Months into his practice, Kenji faced a situation that would have once consumed him. A project he led was criticized publicly, unfairly, by someone with influence. The room turned quiet, waiting for his response. He felt the old surge rise from his chest, hot and urgent, demanding defense. Time slowed, not mystically, but mechanically. He noticed the heat in his face, the tension in his hands, the narrative forming in his mind. And then he remembered a line attributed to Zen training halls. "You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to." He answered calmly, briefly, without sharpness, without submission, without emotional punctuation. Later, alone, the aftershock arrived. His body trembled slightly. His thoughts searched for delayed revenge. His pride asked to be fed. He did nothing. He sat on the floor of his apartment and allowed the discomfort to exist without instruction. It passed like weather. That night, he slept without replaying the scene. Chapter 5. The Structure of Stillness. Kenji learned that the immovable mind is not a personality trait. It is a construction. He built it through repetition, waking at the same hour, walking without headphones, eating simply, training his body not for beauty, but for obedience. When emotions surged, he acknowledged them without negotiation. When fear appeared, he examined it like a craftsman studies a flawed tool. He stopped chasing the feeling of being calm. Calm became a side effect, not a goal. From Bushido, he learned that dignity is behavior under pressure, not an internal sensation. From Zen, he learned that thoughts are events, not commands. From Musashi, he learned that dependence is the root of disturbance. He still felt anger, still felt disappointment, still felt loss. But these states no longer controlled the order of his actions. He began to recognize a quiet power in doing less, but doing it deliberately. Chapter 6. What Cannot Be Taken. Years passed. His life did not become grander. It became narrower, steadier, harder to invade. People described him as reserved, some as distant, a few as cold. None of this concerned him. Reputation, Musashi warned, is smoke. When crises came, as they always do, he moved slowly. He listened more than he spoke. He slept when he could. He kept his routines intact like a spine inside chaos. He understood something that cannot be taught quickly. Peace is not a condition you reach. It is a structure you defend. The man who cannot be disturbed is not emotionless. He is loyal to something deeper than emotion. He does not build his identity on approval, comfort, or reaction. He builds it on conduct. And conduct, once disciplined, becomes armor. Conclusion. The world will continue to provoke. It will offer praise to enslave you and criticism to command you. It will promise safety in exchange for your attention and identity in exchange for your obedience. Ancient warriors knew this terrain well. They did not seek to dominate others first. They sought to become ungovernable inside. The immovable mind is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It reveals itself in what you do not say, what you do not chase, and what no longer controls you. To walk this path is not to become invincible. It is to become unavailable to what weakens you. And in an age built on disturbance, that alone is a form of victory.